This is the Alternative Investing Advantage podcast from Advanta IRA, where we show you how to explore investments beyond Wall Street and open your eyes to new options for your portfolio. It's time to take control and give yourself the freedom to choose where you invest your money.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Alternative Investing Advantage podcast. As always, my name is Alex Perny, and today we are very pleased to welcome on Gabe Bar with DealEstate.AI. And we're going to be talking about, if the name of the company was any indication, about AI and machine learning, but specifically how its implications are being factored into real estate, commercial real estate, because it's easy enough, I think, for a lot of us to see the high level of saying, oh, okay, things like ChatGPT or other AI engines that can help with more mundane things, questions, writing paper, copy, image generation. But machine learning and AI really has much of a broader application, and the industries that it's being applied to are evolving and changing and growing day by day. And we're really pleased to have Gabe on today to talk about something that is as numbers centric as real estate would seem to be a very logical application for this. But up until now, I really hadn't run into anyone that was doing it on a more enterprise scale, and using that for the term of just saying not just having someone write an advertisement copy for a single family home, something that actually has real application towards investors and how they actually engage with the buying process or underwriting process. So again, we're very pleased to welcome on Gabe today, and I'm sure I'm missing some very high level stuff. But again, Gabe, thank you very much for being on with us today. Give us a little bit of background about yourself and an introduction into what DealEstate.AI is.
Sure. Alex, thanks for having me. My name is Gabe. I'm Gabe Bar, and I'm the CTO of DealEstate.AI. And for the last 20 years, I've been focusing on integrating enhanced technological innovation into different applications. Started from just different space, from e-commerce, and then migrated into real estate, where we found the applications to be more applicable. And over the last 5 to 6 years, we've heavily invested in AI, for the sense of, again, like you said, Alex, is more into the application side of it rather than on the how we can enhance specific marketing or content creation. Not to say that this is not more important. It's just a matter of how we can really take advantage of the AI, especially from a machine learning perspective. If you take under consideration the LLM, the large language models, it's usually people find it more applicable into content, but the LLM and machine learning and ML is really a major component when you have to compilate a large amount of data and put it into a decision-making process, because it's eventually all about the decision, whether it's going to be on the underwriting process, where how can we find and really understand where a property is worth buying? What is the predictions going to look like? What is beyond the numbers, right? So financial modeling, it's been, for ages, been something that everybody is, especially when buying any acquisition, will need to apply. But integrating an AI is the ability to connect a lot of data points and bring a lot of data points from places that are not usually accessible for the manual labor type of modeling, and then AI gives you a certain advantage on that part. All the way to, this is from a scouting and property identification, all the way to how do you manage the property, right? So how do you manage tenants? So how do you enhance tenants' satisfaction within a specific property, whether it's commercial or residential? So all that, done a lot of the stuff in real estate over the last couple of years, and over the years, has been manual labor. It's just that spreadsheets and Excels and databases that are outdated, so to speak, but nonetheless still being frequently used. So you find it more often than not that manual labor is the prominent application of of buying real estate and actually managing as well. Surprisingly, I see that very often. So yeah, with our approach to real estate, from acquisition to management, all the way to exit, and we'll go into, if we'll have some time, we'll go into the idea of real estate tokenization. Now AI actually could be very handy there when it comes to digital currency on real estate. But that's a different story when this becomes more of a mainstream. So yeah, that's what we do in essence. A lot of
No,
stuff,
awesome.
but
Yeah.
cool stuff.
No, definitely some very good points for us to cover throughout this. And again, just looking down, taking notes, I'm not doing anything else other than that. But first and foremost, I kind of like to, from someone that's very involved in AI, it's an easy enough word for us to hear and think, most of us got our first introduction in, the James Cameron classic Terminator 2, right?
Right.
But I think it's well to define this as the real world practical application, moving from science fiction into science. When people hear things like AI or machine learning, maybe from a professional perspective, maybe give us a high level definition of what exactly that means.
Okay. Right. Yeah, good point. So if we look at when the way we look at real estate application, utilizing a very powerful combination of traditional data processing and advanced AI. It's about the data eventually, because AI is just the ability to interact with data and create models that eventually will ultimately help us with the decision making process. So if we use AI models to streamline and enhance the data from extraction point of view, it's just think about it as like having a big buckets of lots of marbles, right? And how do you find within this big bucket, how do you find, or what are the chances, the probability of finding that red marble in this big buckets of marbles, right? So when we're integrating AI technology, tasks like underwriting, error correction, even content extraction, when that's what, from chat GPT, that's what, based on LLM and content extraction, it boils down to how do we personalize that? How do we automate complex workflows and reduce manual formats? That's what I was referring before, with text, images, PDFs. How do we take, for instance, T12, the trailing 12 months of financial P&L, which is profit and loss of a property, and within 30 seconds, we're able to actually understand whether this is a viable option for acquisition. How do we take Excel, PDF, and have the machine understand what is the data that they can actually extract and make it, instead of a raw data, make it more of a, like I said, more of an application basis. So it's taking all of that, the data points, and transforming it into very accurate and structural, actionable insight. This is what the AI is all about, going into the actual insight. So even when you go on ChatGPT, you provide the prompt, right? Write me an email, whatever. Give the more content or the more context you provide, the AI learns the ability how to put it together and come up with the best solution, right? So you said, make it sound friendly, it's all part of the AI, the artificial intelligence, the ability to understand the human thinking, so to speak, and come up with actionable insight. Whether it's good or not, it's a different story. It's where the learning machine comes in, and where you actually put in more data, the more data point, then the AI can put it together and come up with better insight out of that. That really what fusions the AI from the conventional models and provide our users, really our tenants, our property manager, our investors, with efficient tools to make the informed decision in real estate.
Okay, great. So at a very high level, at least with AI, for those people that are trying to wrap their head around it, it's data analysis and modeling, right? Giving a program enough data to then in turn draw inferences to a certain question that's being asked, right? So you take these large, like T12s and your P&L statements with a particular outcome that you're looking for. And it used to be kind of a yes, no kind of thing, but now it's evolving into being, variances of that to giving a spectrum of answers kind of being the best way to put it to the question being asked of that data, right? Is that, again, a fair assessment of high level of kind of what
Yeah,
this is, what's
yeah,
happening?
yeah, definitely. Definitely, it's a fair assessment. But again, this is also, we have to remember that this is an evolving process. AI, we're talking about learning machine, right? So we're talking about the ability to compilate data and provide an actual insight, but at the same time, this is a learning process where the more data we're actually able to generate or we're able to curate, then then if the insight was a certain accuracy now, then maybe a week from now we'll get a 90% accuracy. So we have to remember that this is a learning process for artificial intelligence. This is not just based on historical data, it's also based on predictions, right? So what type of predictions are we able to apply when the data is put to us based on historical data or based on the current present data? What type of futuristic predictions can we apply? So this is an ongoing process. It doesn't stick with what we had in the past.
Yeah, and that kind of again is the gap that's being bridged between traditional database analysis query and artificial intelligence is the ability to take that data set and just have a question answered to then being able to make educated inferences based on that historical data to provide a better clarity on the question being asked.
That is
Which is
correct.
really kind of the cool part about this that again, I like to, the for lack of a better term, the nerd in me really enjoys about this kind of stuff is that it has a lot of applications, and yes, some of it can be, a little bit scary from a few different perspectives. But at the end of the day, this is kind of what it is. So, again, my goal with this kind of interview is to help to educate people on how this can be a really powerful tool for real estate, especially in the context of what you're doing, but also demystify it a touch. Because again, it's just like cryptocurrency is an easy one to pick on too. It's very complex, and some of that stuff is complex for complexity's sake. But being able to have a just kind of a good understanding of it can go a long way with this. So you mentioned a few different things on kind of how you're trying to apply these
Right.
machine learning and AI processes. Mainly the three that you mentioned were the underwriting process for real estate acquisition, and
Mhm.
and again, I'm assuming that's in the commercial real estate space specifically,
Right. That is correct.
correct? Or do you, yeah, then property identification, and then also property management. So
Right.
let's kind of break down those three, right? Because a lot of our investors have invested in commercial real estate or they have underwritten their own deals. And the underwriting process is, where you really got to be careful. That's how you make sure that this deal, to the best of your ability, is going to be something that's going to make money for everyone. Because who wants to knowingly invest in something that's going to lose money? With a few exceptions, you want to make money. It's why you invest.
Right.
So coming from the traditional side, it's again a very data driven area. You take again historical performance of comparable properties, a typical comps analysis, if you will. You have things like geographical data, you have things like census data, jobs data, economic drivers, inflationary data. All these things that play into someone who's ideally, hopefully, been doing this for a long time, trying to make the best educated hypothesis of this deal working out.
Right.
Now, how does what you're doing play into that, and how are you trying to, and what things have you done and are doing to improve that process to where it's can be really utilized in an AI model?
Right. It's interesting that you said that. I mean, you just basically kind of outlined the process of underwriting. But the only
Mhm.
difference is when an AI comes to play, excluded the predictive analysis part of it, is the ability to connect all the dots and put it together and make it an actionable insight, right? So, and do it in very simplistic and streamline the entire process in a very short period of time. So what you just explained, a process of financial modeling and creating an underwriting, picking up the comps and understanding the T12 and the rent rolls and the P&L and what are the expenses and what is the what is the capex capabilities or enhancement that one will go into commercial real estate if you want to do a value adds components in that or not. Uh, and again, like I said, excluding the prediction, where prediction must utilize the data points in order to make the predictions. This could take between a couple hours to a couple of days, right? So whatever you just described. So we also have our own financial analyst because yes, we trust the AI, but we want to make sure that there's a human factor that looks at it from above, because it's about learning how to operate the AI and not just counting on the AI for the full decision making process. So from a time consuming, this is the first and foremost main advantage. From time consuming, when we get T12 and rent roll, we upload it to our AI underwriting machine. Within 30 seconds, we get a full underwriting platforms, a full underwriting model. And what it does, it gives us first the ability to really examine as many properties as we want to. So we have the ability, we or anybody that uses AI for that matter, is now able to kind of cut their span time on understanding the financial models, especially when you're actually getting the outcome. So when we automate the extraction, the phrasing, financial data from the rent roll, the T12, from any file, whether it's a PDF or it's Excel, and using our algorithm and advanced AI and machine learning to really understand these nuances and these different financial models, because you can have 100 different financial P&Ls or rent rolls. People just do it. It's not definitely not standardized. So one P&L could be completely different than the other. So first and foremost, to understand it and have this capability in understanding the what is that we're looking at, and extracting that, extrapolating the data, and providing that the financial modeling off on that. That's a big thing. So like we use fuzzy string machines, right? So it kind of handles minor dependencies in order to, in terms of formatting and accurate data mapping, because we have to map all the data to begin with. So you might be sitting and trying to get the data, go to apartment.com, let's get some comps and all that. When we're using LLM, and some of it is actually, we're integrating GPT into some of that, especially when it comes to the intelligence side of understanding the predictions end of it. We apply some of the GPT models. All of that gives us a full, comprehensive, very elaborate underwriting in 30, 60 seconds when we just provided the data. So now we have this full underwriting, generate operating memorandum. So if we want to go to market, we want to go to our investors, it's okay, guys, this is the best we have found because we have run 1,000 properties in our model, and this is what comes out the best. Now, let's make a decision together. Is this the price? Is this the right property? So the AI enables us to really sort through lots of data points and do it in a very short period of time and go into an actionable insight that I was saying. So this is what we do when it comes to the underwriting. Again, obviously, the other component is the predictive analysis point of view. It's understanding what will the crime is going to look like in this market. What would the cap rate or the job growth, all that. So we go into about 20,000 different data points, from public REITs to we go into governmental agencies. We curate all the data as us as humans, it's going to take us a lot of time to really pick up the data, and we're probably going to miss some of it. So by us being able to tap into 20 even more data points in these underwriting process, we're now able to really match the one that will best fit the desired outcome. For instance, look at the comparables part of it. So you might go on apartment.com and just try to find something which is similar. AI gives you the precision, and especially when you apply the machine learning into it, gives you the precision of understanding exactly what will be the perfect comp for your underwriting. So, again, I'm trying to simplify that as much as I can, but you get the point. This is really it's a very robust system, but it gives a lot of insight.
Yeah, no, and again, kind of what I'm getting from that is taking the traditional, it's basically, kind of taking the same ethos of why people go from single family real estate to commercial real estate in the first place is the amount of bandwidth. Instead of investing in one property and getting one door that generates rental income, you can invest in one deal that has 100 doors that generate rental income. And then, further from that, instead of having the ability to kind of look at one to maybe three or four deals at a time, people need to sleep, eat. They'd like to have maybe a social life. The ability to have something that can take all of these data sets and all these different deals you'd like to look at and running a predictive model analysis that says, okay, hey, look, because of all this and because of the parameters that you've set, here are the ones that actually do pencil, and here's kind of what their predictive models look like as to just taking that bandwidth thing and just ramping it up, right? For
Right.
for what it's looking at. And I'm assuming it with these tools as well is that you can play with the ultimate outcome of what you want. So you put in one predictive model saying, "Hey, I'd like something that has this cap rate, this predicted pref return being paid. Here's my fee structure. Here's my exit strategy," and you can play with those models too to say,
Right.
"Okay, look, like this deal didn't pencil in this scenario, but it does in this. It increases our potential beta and risk to our investors. This one's a lot safer and looks like that. So that way, especially if you're trying to, do a lot more deal volume, you can say, hey, look, we have a range of risk profiles for things that do actually pencil within our guidelines, and here's kind of what we've predicted on each. Again, giving that higher bandwidth capacity to potentially get more deals done faster, which again, just like with any real estate, that's, going from single family to multifamily and then extrapolating that out, I think is pretty cool
Right.
from that
Yeah.
aspect.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it is.
yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I mean,
So, from
I
that
was,
aspect, again,
yeah.
go ahead.
No, I was just about to, interject and say that you're absolutely right. You hit the nail right on the head. It's really about it's the same thing when you go on ChatGPT when you write your prompt, right? You get an outcome, a certain outcome, and you basically now go in and try to uh, either simplify it or write a uh, provide a better context to chat, to get a more accurate outcome out of chat. So it's the same thing with AI. Again, as I said, it's an evolving process. It's a learning machine. So it's when you have the basic underwriting. Now it's a time to kind of squeeze it to where you want it to be. You can play with the numbers as far as I want to generate a higher return by looking at the cash side, looking at that. So you have the ability, and you can run an improved model, so to speak, right? And what we also have added the ChatGPT type of model that it goes out and search for the specific factors that will apply on this, whether it's going to be risk factors. What are the reviews in this market to begin with, right? So instead of trying to incorporate into from a data point, let's actually see the reviews of the tenants. What are the tenants saying about the property or the vicinity or the properties so integrating all of these components eventually will get you the right outcome.
Yeah, and this kind of definitely bled over, but again, to go to the 3 points that we mentioned, we've covered the underwriting process of, plugging in the deal, but the other part of that is finding the deal.
Right,
So, I'd imagine, I don't know necessarily, and correct me if I'm wrong, but AI and data sets have kind of bandwidth, right? You have to kind of give it chunks of data. Those could be very large chunks and a lot of data
right,
points, but you have to kind of narrow it down into appreciable tranches for you to get the best results, right? You tell ChatGPT, which is an LLM, it's like, hey, write me the best book ever. Well, it can write certainly a very competent paper, it can write a very interesting story, but you need to kind of drill it down. It's like, write me the best science fiction book that's based in the past or present. Write me a good fantasy novel that doesn't have orcs and elves. Like, you need to kind of drill things down.
right,
So, from that aspect, I would imagine kind of why you have the three different aspects is because you need to have that delineated a little bit for the machine learning to work effectively and not just give you the huge, like, matrix looking output, right?
right.
So property identification, that's one thing I would really find interesting because how do you parry that away? Like, how do you, because I'd imagine that's kind of like the first step, it would be property ID, underwriting, then management, correct? And kind of the stack of how this stuff is utilized, correct?
Right. Yeah. When it comes to property identification, one has to remember that there's so many components in that in the property identification where it becomes quite a major task to perform. For once, you need to know if this is an open market viable options for acquisition. I think this is the main important. So unless you really want to scout the entire market for multifamily, I mean, there's a lot of data aggregators out there that you can just go out and tap into it and just get the full data on what's available. So you have to understand whether this is available for acquisition or open. At least have the openness for potential acquisition. You have to definitely pinpoint on the type of market you wanna. Again, you might be agnostic, but there's definitely a more favorable market than the others, some markets and MSAs that you feel more comfortable working in. Cap rate, definitely the size is important. Occupancy, so all of these variables are being plugged into the machine, and then the ability to go out there and scout using callers that we've built and are able to come into this major database that we're building, and out of this database pull out the one that really fits your buy box. It's quite it's This is a 24 hours 24/7 machine that's working and looking properties. So we're using image processing, obviously, using LLM as part of it. Whether it's a natural language processing, all of the components are put together in order to come up with the right property. I can say that it doesn't require, once we have a list, then someone else needs to go in and start looking at them from a human perspective. It does happen, and we have to. But it definitely gives us the ability to curate the right properties at the least amount of time. So we wake up in the morning, we open the computer, we already have a list to look at, to sort through. That's kind of the process.
Yeah, and you brought up kind of an interesting point too and it was I think really kind of a key component of this is that you mentioned image processing, and one thing that is kind of a little bit of a thought for me is that the to a point, again, part of the nice thing about machine learning is that it learns and can extrapolate even from let's just say an incomplete data set, can make inferences and hopefully find you something good. But the problem I'd imagine that you run into, especially when you don't have something, again, to the underwriting point, you found the property and you can really drill down. But from the identification standpoint, to find this stuff, again, if you're just plugging into LoopNet, right, you're going to get everything that everyone else has, and
Right.
it's a smaller pond that you're going to be fighting with a lot of people. And I'd imagine some of the implication of utilizing image variance is to say, okay, well, let's say someone had just posted this on some random Facebook group and didn't have a whole lot of information, but like it's a picture of a large apartment complex, and then can extrapolate data points saying, okay, well, it's located here. Here's information on identifying properties to contact, reach out, try to close, which I think is, again, correct me if I'm wrong, is probably kind of the reason that the image processing is placed into this data set, correct?
Right. You're right. It does, but also an image processing is the ability to sort through major amount of data, images, and pick up the ones that fits the buy box or fits your criteria. So whether we're using on social media, just to pinpoint, even though we're not, because it's not really, we haven't found that to be generating the best outcome. We are sorting through the web in general, and understanding whether these images have any implications on the sourcing of the deal. So I can say that property images is really being the number one criteria. It's not. It's mostly text, because you'll find more in text rather than the images. In the real estate space, some other spaces might be, exactly the opposite. But in real estate space, the text is where we found the jams. But also bear in mind that this is really in an in the infancy stages. So we're just at the beginning. Real estate has been for ages a very traditional. Business in real estate is done very traditional, very conservative, very straightforward, not very susceptible to technology. We're actually a pioneer in this space to begin with, because you won't find a lot of companies that have chose to invest a lot of resources in real estate tech. You might find it from a data aggregation, yes, but as far as understanding the implications and the applications, this is, we're kind of unique in this space. But nonetheless, this is where you have so much data points that is really being misread or misused, as far as when it comes to AI. Because if you go to LoopNet or you go to Craxi, these are usually data aggregators, right? So they aggregate the data and just put it out there. Do a search, come up with whatever you come up with, and that's it, right? So pull out the data, try to understand the data. So uh, it's a lot more complex than just keeping it at that, because using LLM for that, you have to have a massive amount of text relevant to understand how you curate that and come up with that specific one property. So I'm not saying that this is not feasible. It is feasible. We are doing that, but I can say that this is going to be the highlight of our development. We find our development to be more applicable into something that is more relatable rather than scouting. Scouting, like I said, there's so many variables, so that's why I'm kind of reserved on that issue. I'm still baffled where this is going to be the best approach.
Yeah, and again, that makes sense. From that perspective, I could definitely see, because the problem with these large data sets is that it's imperfect it's not perfectly formatted data. When you're farming through this, it's not all nice, CSV files from Excel. It's not all nice like spreadsheets of stuff that's just like, okay, cool, I can do a traditional database query. Like it's not all it can't all be searched by QSL, right? It's not all something that's just like easy, the language is all correct. You have like a PDF file or a Word document, you have a CSV,
Right.
you have all this different stuff that needs to get homologated and then pushed through, reformatted, reviewed, and then spit back out the other end,
Right.
which is a whole other really cool part about AI that I find. But that's a really good point that you brought up, is that it's more on like text and imaging analysis than it is so much on just like picture analysis of
Right.
properties for the identification, which would make sense. Someone writes a description of something, or you get some type of PDF file that's out there in the ether that is being reviewed, and that's how you kind of capture the property identification. And again, that could be in a different language, it could be in different fonts, it could be in different file formats, resolutions. The more I kind of say it out loud, the crazier it gets. I'm just like, really, like a
Yep.
machine learning tool can take that, compile it, reformat it, analyze it, and spit out an answer quickly
Yeah.
is mind boggling. But that's
Yeah,
definitely
it
pretty
took us
cool from
about
that
a year to
aspect.
train. Yeah, it took us
Yeah.
about a year to train the models with different data sets and different clusters that we had to apply throughout the entire process of learning. But I can safely say that now we're comfortable when we see a PDF and when we get it. You know, by the way, a lot of these formats are we're able to migrate them into JSON files, and then based on that, we can read them again from a machine perspective, to read them into a standardized type of code, so to speak, and that we can put it into the machine and come up with the right data. But yeah, I mean, this is a complex issue, different languages, different formats, and the more we can sit here for an hour and still not cover all the different formats of data sets that you can go into. And you're right. This is where the machine learning comes in. And so, using different machine learning processes, this is where it gets kind of kind of unique and tricky at the same time.
No, absolutely. And again, it's just even again thinking about this stuff more, it's just like it's not only different like human languages, there's also different coding languages of stuff that it's trying to integrate within as well. Because you never know what format this stuff's going to be written in, or what kind of file type you're going to get. So whether you're getting something that's written in C++ or Python or something that's maybe
Right.
like an incomplete file type, and then it still has to, read it, integrate it, spit it back. I find this stuff very interesting, and I hope that comes
Yeah, I
across
mean,
of just like
yeah, I mean,
how
I
really,
can see where this
really cool.
conversation can go. Yeah, we can definitely sit here for hours and talk about that. But I think we can,
Yeah.
if we want to really drill down to where real estate can benefit from that, I think you've got to look at the components of the usage of real estate. So one of them is being the underwriting, the scouting, and all that. But what about the end user? What about the customers, right? So it is
Mhm.
it's been the real estate is so traditional in a way that you have paying customers, which are the tenants, right? Whether they're renters or what is for office use or for rents, for just for homes. There's 40 million renters for homes, and over 109 million paying people pay rent, age of 35 and under. So very susceptible to technology, obviously. Generation C, Generation Generation Y, whatever you call it, whatever the generation there is very susceptible to tech. Still, tech is not being integrated. And predominantly AI, for that matter, where AI has so much to offer. Yeah, so this is something that we have taken on ourselves to break into this mold and introduce a different way of managing and running these properties, not from a property management perspective, because there are some components of property management that could be automated and integrated in AI. Some been using it with its leasing or price matching and stuff like that. But what about the tenants themselves? What about the paying customers, so to speak? Now, how can we improve their life? How can we make it better? How can we generate a more livable, enjoyable experience while they're paying their most of the? I guess this is the highest paid expense out of their income.
No, yeah, no, that definitely makes a lot of sense, and is something that, I would have not necessarily given much credence to, but definitely kind of really rounds out the service model offer that you have for all of this, which again is just is really fascinating. From the aspect of the ability to underwrite, to identify the property, to help underwrite it, and then also help to add value by the fact that you know what makes, especially in commercial real estate, what makes money is the tenants, right? That's where you get the revenue from these properties. People, certainly do flip commercial real estate, but it's not like the single family home where you just have no revenue from it. You spend all this money and sell it. That's not really the case almost ever in commercial real estate. So if you can help to drive additional revenue, or, people think, oh, well, it's like, additional revenue can be looked at in a few different ways. One, raising rents. Two, not having turnover, because that costs you money. There is a tangible and intangible actual dollar figure associated with having to market, clean, get a new tenant in there, background checks, all that kind of stuff plays into it. Because, if the tenant's still in there and they have 3 or 4 broken blinds, well, if they don't care about it, you're not fixing it. But new tenant moves in there, then you got to have someone go in there, fix it up, make it rent ready. If the carpets might be 5 or 6 years old, but the tenant's in there, it's like, well, I don't want to move out and have the carpets replaced. They move out, they gotta replace the carpets. So again, there's a lot of really cool stuff with this, and it kind of stinks that we're kind of running up on our time for this, but for that aspect, I think what you're doing is very engaging on the real estate side of things, and again, it's just it's the tip of the iceberg as this stuff gets better and more precise as days and days go on. So again, I really do appreciate you taking the time to come in and talk with us and give people a primer on exactly how AI and machine learning can be used in real estate, past just writing a really killer description for a property you're trying to market. It can really get into the data and help to, increase those throughputs for real estate. Well, again, I really do appreciate your time today. It's the one thing that none of us can make any more of. So thanks for taking time to speak with us and our guest today. Again, this has been the Alternative Investing Advantage podcast. Thanks, Gabe, for being with us. My name is Alex Perny, and thanks. Have a great day.
Thank you for tuning in to the Alternative Investing Advantage podcast. Tune in next week for more investing tips and strategies.
Want to hear more episodes of the Alternative Investing Advantage? Search podcast at advantaira.com and subscribe.